Welcome to another edition of Preps Plus Extra, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's online high school sports show. How you doing? I'm Mark Stewart, prep editor of the Journal Sentinel. Joining me as always, J.R. Radcliffe. How you doing?
I'm doing great. We got 2 weeks to go, and then we can talk about the playoffs. It's getting down to the nitty-gritty.
Yes, week 7 of the high school football season. There are a handful of big games, but there are 2 in particular in North Shore Conference, City Conference games that are going to play a huge role in who wins those particular leagues. Let's start in the North Shore. Whitefish Bay, Homestead, 2 great rivals. They play some close games over the years. What stands out to you about this game this time?
Homestead's been the gold standard in the North Shore for so long. They had a winning streak that stretched years, years and years of winning. Germantown finally got them last year. Whitefish Bay, has been the last few years sort of trying to sort of overcome that hurdle to really take the next level in terms of elite program. They made it to the 3rd round of the playoffs last year and bring back pretty much everybody on that team, including a very good running back named Rashadim Gray, who's been lighting it up.
Right.
Big rushing totals, and they have such a talented team this year, and I really think they feel like this is the year where they can beat Homestead and be the best team in the North Shore. I mean, that conference is still very much up in the air. You've got 3 teams fighting for it with Germantown as well. They'll play Homestead in the last game of the regular season. Right now, Homestead undefeated, but these are clearly the 2 toughest tests on the docket. And I think Whitefish Bay obviously wants to finish near at the top and then set that up for a nice deep run into the playoffs again.
Right, and that's true. I mean, even though this is a big game this week in the North Shore, it's not over in that league. Next week.
Good next week too, yeah.
Right. Now in the City Conference, you got to look at this week. You got Milwaukee King and Milwaukee Washington, which for those who have followed the City Conference over the years, it's always been Riverside and it's been Tech.
Right.
And because the league has an unbalanced schedule, Riverside is still undefeated, but it's allowed King and Washington to not face Riverside this year. So they're both undefeated. This is Washington's final league game, so Washington can clinch a share of the conference title with a victory. King puts themselves obviously in a good position to get a share of the title as well. And it's just, to me, it's just good for the for the city to these programs. A lot of these programs have struggled and they're trying to get a foundation going, and nothing does that like having some success that draw out the kid who's maybe on the fence of wanting to play or not. So that's one game I'm gonna be interested to see how it unfolds, and that's gonna take place Saturday afternoon down at Custer Stadium.
Yeah.
Speaking of first place teams, Brown Deer has climbed to the top of the Woodland East division with a victory over Whitnell last week. Let's see what Trey Palmer and Drew Worth had to say about the win.
Yeah, we're confident right now, but we got to keep it up. We can't take our foot off the gas. Starts in practice, we got to keep the intensity up.
Well, next week we definitely have contained Greenfield in the running game, but the way our defense is playing, I think we got it locked down, and I think the offense finally hit our stride these last 2 weeks, and I don't think we're going to be stopped.
So Brown Deer and Whitnall now tied atop the Woodland East, both teams with a couple losses. Could still make plenty of noise in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Another team that always makes some noise despite a couple losses, Catholic Memorial. They just scored a huge upset over Waukesha West in the Classic 8 and put themselves plainly in position to make the playoffs and make a run in Division III. We actually caught up with Bill Young right after that game, after they beat Waukesha West 17-0 Friday.
That's what Memorial's all about. I mean, we're a school of 660 kids, and our kids take great pride in that, and we work extremely hard. And sometimes you get the ball to bounce your ways, and other times you don't. But it's a great tribute to our coaches and our kids.
So as you mentioned, JR, Catholic Memorial is always one of those teams that once they make the playoffs, you really can't pay attention to their record because of all the competition they go up against during the year. Who else at this point in the season do you see as maybe they don't have the best record right now, but they might be a team that you don't want to face in the playoffs?
Well, certainly Menominee Falls comes to mind right now, and they're not going to be looked at as an underdog by the end of the season because they could easily share the Greater Metro title now, having beaten Sussex Hamilton and Marquette in back-to-back weeks. We talked about the GMC at the beginning of the year, and we threw out a bunch of teams that could contend for that title, and I think I at least thought Menominee Falls would be one of those teams on the outside looking in when the playoffs rolled around, but clearly that was stupid. They've shown that they're a very good football team, and they're certainly a team that you need to look out for when the playoffs roll around.
Right. Yeah. A couple teams along those lines that come to mind for me are Slinger. Slinger they're 3-3 right now, but they just had a real strong performance against Wisconsin Lutheran,
right.
and they started off slow against Whitefish Bay to start the year, but ever since then they've shown signs of being a dangerous team. One team to watch this week, just to see how they handle some success, is New Berlin West.
Yeah.
New Berlin West, they just upset Greendale last week. New coach this year, and they've kind of been working in a new system, going from the spread to the option this year. Mm-hmm. And I think they're thinking maybe they're starting to get get a little momentum there. So those are two teams that fit the bill for me. Waukesha West, I don't know if any, they're 3-3 right now, and if they're your first team, if you open the playoffs with Waukesha West, I don't know if that's you're feeling really.
And consider they have Arrowhead on Thursday, so they could easily go to 3-4. Arrowhead, the #1 team in the area right now, and then need that win the last week of the season, even qualify for the playoffs. I still wouldn't want to face them. They could be a 6, 7, 8 seed, and some team is going to have draw the short straw, end up with the Wolverines. Right. Yes. So that'll be interesting. The whole seeding process, but that'll be interesting too. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that another time. Next week.
Yes, it will indeed. So that wraps up another edition of Preps Plus Extra. For more Preps Plus action, catch me and Lance Allen every Sunday night on today's TMJ4. See you next week.